All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. I am Rachel Dorsey, financial wellness coach, and I am joined once again with my friend Amy Ruggieri from the Ruggieri Group. If you want to introduce yourself real quick.
Yeah, good morning. Amy Ruggieri with the Ruggieri Group. I run a business with my husband. We are financial advisors, essentially, where we add a little extra twist of, we talk a lot about literacy and mindset. So super exciting. We love what we do.
Yeah, awesome. And we are continuing our series on money and relationships. So we had two that were about like very, very new relationships. And then we had two about a relationship when it's sort of moving into that next level of marriage or moving in together. And now we're going to talk about kids. So this conversation is going to be the sort of why should you talk about finances with a partner that you are either starting to talk about having children with, or potentially you've already had recently had children with. And if you've not had a conversation up to this point, of course, now is a really great time to do so, because kids bring just a whole other layer to so many things, but also like just very specifically to finances. And Amy, I know you had a couple of stats if you want to maybe share
Yeah.
those with us.
Yeah. So we have two children, two boys, and I look at this regularly because going into parenting, I didn't look at these statistics. I didn't look at any of
Yeah.
it. And I want to encourage you before I share this. This is something you do want to consider and know about. So the one statistic I found was for the year 2022, the average cost to raise a child, there was a little range. It was between $15,000 and $17,000 per year. So that ended up being in the $300,000 range. And I was like, okay, wow. That's a lot of money, right?
Wow. Yeah.
And then I actually dug a little bit further. We are included in the special needs community. We have a son, Dominic, who's on the autism spectrum. And so I know that that's a little different because I feel that pressure on our family. And so I looked up what was the average per year on that, and it was $60,000 per year.
Wow.
And 1 in 3 families are affected with autism, other disabilities. I mean, it's more common than not, unfortunately. Yeah. And that's something that I was sharing with you, Rachel, is most parents don't go into their parenting journey thinking that that's even a possibility on the table. Nobody thinks about that. And so I think having that information and kind of hearing those things, it maybe sparks we maybe should have a conversation about that. Because if you don't have an extra 15 to 17,000 laying around now, chances are that pressure is going to be felt.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're not prepared for it. So,
yeah. So I think that really leads right into the why should you have this conversation, because relationships can be challenging anyway, even just in and of themselves. And then you add in children, which, people that want children, of course, love them. And it's a great thing, but it still is adding on extra stress into your life. There's
all kinds of extra
stress. Yes. So many other things going on. Your time is like no longer your time. And so you don't want to add on that extra, I didn't think about this financially before I did it.
Preventable stress.
Yeah. So if you, again, aren't talking about finances with your partner and you're already at that point where you just had a baby, there's a really good chance that you are going to be in that just more of a heightened stress level. And you're going to probably argue with your partner a little bit more than if you would have had the conversation ahead of time. Like, diapers cost this much, or preschool is going to cost this much. And you just don't want to have that, like, you already have a baby, like that's already like enough on your plate. You don't want to have that added, like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. You want to be aware.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that people also overlook, which again, I mean, everything that I speak on, people will say to me all the time, you're so passionate about this stuff. You know why I'm passionate about it? I've not done these things. I've done a lot of learning the hard way. So if I can help somebody not have to go through the pain, obviously that's my goal, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't think about also, you may not go back to work. Childcare is expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, it's $1,000, $1,200, $1,500 a month, depending on the type of childcare that you want. And so that might be, you know, if you're only making $2,500 a month for $500 a month, it may not make sense for your family to put them in childcare because you're only going to net $500, right? And so that's something to can take into consideration. You may find yourself where it's only one income, or maybe it's a part-time income. What does that look like if that becomes a decision? Like, I think you have to consider it all and talk about it all. Before you get into it, because there's a lot more going on and a lot less time.
Right.
To think and carefully consider these things before the baby comes versus after the baby comes, because you're a little bit, your life changed. Like a lot. Right.
And not that if you just recently had a baby, you should be like, oh, it's too late, I guess I shouldn't talk about this.
It's never too late.
No, it's definitely never too late. But if you are on the other side, we've not yet had a baby, and you're considering it, it's so important for your relationship and for your stress level, and for your partner's stress level, and for your potential baby too, right? If they don't want to be born into this sort of stressful environment where the parents are fighting or stressed, you know, because of money. So I think it might seem obvious, but I know a lot of people that do have children and have not talked about finances, and it does cause that tension that maybe wouldn't be there if they had the conversation ahead of time. So like I have a lot of passions. Just talk to me for 5 minutes. You'll see that. But one of my biggest passions, especially in my business, is working with couples and just helping them work through the money conversation so that they're not arguing and they're not taking it out on each other, and they're feeling more comfortable with their own finances, meaning that they're feeling just more comfortable in their relationship. So like that's my passion, and that's why I care so much about this stuff, and why I'm so glad we're doing these conversations around relationships and money.
And I think this also, going to somebody like yourself, Rachel, you know, or us, we're very close to each other in what we do. But in having somebody that is the professional that says, hey, I know the checklist, I know the order, I know the things to be thinking about. So you don't have to go and do all the legwork and go, I don't know where to start. There's a lot of overwhelm that comes with not knowing what steps go where. Like, you know, if I'm having a baby, maybe I don't have life insurance. You have to have life insurance. If you have a baby, it is financially irresponsible to not do that. You know, you've got to think things about, I have a will now. Who does the baby go to? What if something happens to us? There's a lot of these extra considerations where, like, if I'm coaching with you, you're going to go, okay, it's all right. Here's the things. And we want to have an emergency fund, and maybe college savings might be in there. There's a lot of pieces and parts. And I just think that having a coach through this, stretch reduction goes down significantly.
Especially if you've not had,
right?
Especially if you've not had that conversation with your partner yet. And now you're at the point of maybe having a baby, or you just had one and you've not had that conversation. And, you know, you shouldn't feel bad about saying I need help or reaching out. And I think a lot of people really do, but you shouldn't. This is a lot. Especially if you've never, even if you have, like, things are completely changing, but especially if you've never had that conversation, you can't be expected to know everything or to be perfect at it, or be very comfortable with it and be totally fine just having that open conversation. That's an unrealistic expectation. So don't put that on yourself, you know, to say, hey, this is hard. And I could use some support. So anything else, Amy, on the sort of the why you should have conversations around money with your partner at this stage?
Not anything else on the why, but I do want to share this before we wrap up. Just know that if you are having these conversations and they're uncomfortable, it's normal to be uncomfortable. We just had to have a conversation over the kids and Christmas and spending, and both of our kids' birthdays come after Christmas. And we were talking about budget. And we do this professionally. It was me in tears and Bobby going, I don't want you to be upset. And I just want to share that. Like, if you get upset and you get emotional about it, it's natural to be emotional. It's a lot of things. And there are things that are uncharted territory. Usually it's
Yeah.
like I said to him, my frustration was, I've never been through this before. I kept saying, I've never been through this before. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't, and it's okay, it's all right, but we can work through this together. And that
Mhm.
communication, I think, is really strengthening. Going through those hard things, it's strengthening. And
Mhm.
so I just wanted to leave that with some encouragement.
Yeah.
It's okay. Like, you
Yeah.
don't have to be all pretty and put together. It's not always easy, but it is always worth it. It's
Yeah.
definitely always worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's and what I coach my couple clients through is like starting that, because once you start it, it does get
Yeah.
easier. But like you said,
Yeah.
then there's going to be new things that come up, like, oh, we weren't expecting to have to put a new roof on our house, and now we have
Yeah.
to do that, and we had this money set aside, and now we have to have another conversation, which may not be super easy, but it's going to get easier the more you have it. And you're also going to start trusting your partner more, right? When the more you have these
Yes.
conversations and they're not judging you and you're not judging them,
Yep.
and you're working together and you're coming up with goals together. Yeah, then that just, yeah, like you said, it just strengthens your
It
relationship.
really does.
Yeah.
It really does.
Okay, well, join us next time, which is when we're going to talk about sort of how to have this money conversation with your partner if you're at that stage of thinking about having a baby or you've just recently had one. So join us next time. Thanks, everyone.